Your LinkedIn profile is either working for you 24/7 or it's invisible. And if you don't have recruiters reaching out to you to schedule interviews, it's probably invisible. I was a tech sales hiring manager for 5 years, interviewing and hiring hundreds of tech sales reps. And before I would talk to anyone, I would look at their LinkedIn profile. And if their profile was not optimized, I would skip them and wouldn't even look at their resume. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so that recruiters can find you and reach out to you to schedule interviews. By the end of this, you'll have a perfectly dialed LinkedIn profile that will help you get into tech sales way quicker than the rest. The first important thing to know is that recruiters on average will only look at your resume for around 7 seconds. The same thing goes for your LinkedIn profile, and they're making a judgment between 6 and 10 seconds of whether or not you are worth talking to or if they should move on. The 3 main areas they look at to determine if you're a good or bad candidate are your profile picture, your headline, and your about section. These 3 data points are simply the fastest way for them to get to know who you are at a high level. So you need to make sure they are perfect. Most people get passed on in their profile picture because it doesn't look professional and it doesn't set the right first impression. Their headline has nothing to do with getting into tech sales, and their about section doesn't explain why they are going to be the right fit for the role they applied to. Let's jump into some live examples I can show you so that you know what not to do versus what to do. All of these people, by the way, are real people and they will be getting the recording. So for them, it's free coaching, and really the heart behind this is to help people. So if you're in this video, nothing but respect for you, here to help. All right, to start, we've got Tanya D in the house. So let's go ahead and take a look at profile picture first. So profile picture is your first impression. It says everything about you. And really what we're trying to do is convey a balance of professionalism, but also warmth and energy. And we can see here in Tanya's photo, she doesn't have a bad profile picture. I love the smile. I think she's dressed well from what I can tell. If I were to make a change on this, I would want a little more of her shoulders in the picture, and I would want to see some kind of professional dress that she's actually wearing. This is a little too close up on just her face, but I would rate this a B. Looks all right. Now, what I don't like is this banner. A lot of you will have a banner like this, and it's because it looks professional, it looks cool, but to me, it looks very unfocused. What I see is, first of all, a name of someone that I have no idea who you are. Let's be real. You're not a brand. You don't have any name recognition. And so for you to put something like this on your profile, it doesn't do anything for me psychologically. In fact, I see this stuff so much with SDRs that want to break into tech. It's white noise to me, and it shows me that you're kind of one of them, one of these people that are trying to get into tech, and it's a little bit cringy. The other problem with this is we can see right here 2 different errors. Error 1 is that she's got a ton of different titles on here. And what this tells me as a manager is that you're not hyper-focused on being an SDR. You just want to do whatever you can to get into the industry. You shouldn't ever have a profile that says CSM and SaaS and BDR and SDR. It's way too unfocused. And I look at her profile and wonder, does she want to be a customer success specialist? Does she want to do customer onboarding? Or does she want to be a BDR or SDR? Because those are all very different roles. So pick one role and stick with it across your entire tech sales journey. The other error I see is grammatical errors. Right away, this is a no from me. If you can't have attention to detail on your headline or your banner or your profile picture for LinkedIn, I'm not going to be able to trust that you're going to be able to write emails to customers and be customer facing. We can see a spacing issue here. We see that SaaS is misspelt. The second S should be capitalized. We also see over here, there's some spacing issues between sales and the divider bar, as well as over here between the R of SDR and the divider bar. So right away, my first impression of Tanya looks like a very joyful person, cool, but the rest of this right away, I would skip because she looks like she's part of this group of people that are trying to get into tech sales, and you do not want to associate with that group. There's something about human psychology where we want people who are in demand. And when you present yourself as this desperate job seeker who really wants to get into tech sales, it makes us question, why is no one picking you? Why aren't you in tech sales? So we're going to get into some good examples in a second, but for that reason alone, I would move on. Now, if we look at her headline, we have similar issues here, right? I talked about being unfocused. So customer success and SDR, BDR, very different. You need to pick one and stick with it. And then we also have some generic, just like grammatical issues here where this doesn't look clean, right? So moving onward down to her about section, if we were to analyze this, it's way too wordy. Remember, average of 7 seconds is what a recruiter is going to look at your profile for. My first 3 seconds are going to be spent on looking at the headshot, what kind of energy is this person putting forth, and then looking at the banner to see, is this person professional? Is their profile in sync? Does it look weird? And then if that looks good, my eyes will move down to the headline to see who are they, right, at the highest level. And then if you've gotten my interest enough, I'll scroll down here. But if I scroll down here and we've got multiple paragraphs, I'm not reading it. I don't care. This is the same issue that I have with resumes, is that they're way too long and way too verbose. No recruiter is going to read them. So let's flip over to a great example of a great profile. This is Ravleen. Ravleen was one of my clients. We actually got her income doubled in just 28 days by helping her move from banking to tech sales. And now she's making literally double what she was before in a remote role. And what we can see on her profile is super clean and clear. Headshot, professional, neutral. This to me speaks of someone who's confident, but also comfortable being themselves with the orange overlay. Very professional. And if we look at the banner photo, we can see color. And that's what I like to see. So when I see Ravleen's profile, right away, I'm met with confidence, but kind of this color in this piece in a very professional, serene environment. This is going to help me keep reading. So next, I'm going to jump down to the headline. I see very clearly at the highest level who she is. And what I see is that she's moving from credit sales to an SDR role, which is very important for me to know, because now I know without having to look anywhere else on her profile that she has sales experience and she's hyper focused on becoming an SDR. Then we get some of these other descriptors, all things that are really good for an SDR to have: ambition, being authentic, and being aspirational. So this is definitely someone to me that would look like a good potential candidate. And if we roll down to her about section, we'll see a very digestible, very legible about section that clearly highlights her core values and what she thinks about sales down here. One other touch that I love is that she has something that talks about what she does outside of work. I think we can easily fall into being these LinkedIn robots and making sure we're so professional, but we also need to connect on a human emotional level. And when we talk about what we do outside of work, it humanizes us. And maybe there's even a passion or a hobby that the recruiter relates to, like skincare rituals or something. And they kind of chuckle at that. And now you've become not just another LinkedIn profile, but an actual human being that they want to engage with. Another example of a profile that could use some improvement, we've got Cruz here. If I look at Cruz's headshot, I actually really like it. I think he's dressed professional. The immediate impression I get is that he's someone who's joyful because of that smile, and he looks great. The only tweak I would make to it is it's too zoomed out. So if I'm looking at it in this layout here, I actually can't really see his face unless I click on it. So I'd want to zoom this in a little more, get this cropped up so that we've got his shoulders, a little bit of his chest here, and then of course his head with his smile in there. So not bad, but could be better. What I do like is his banner, right? This reflects professionalism, but also color, vibrancy. Who lives, I'm gonna assume, yeah, this is Texas. And it just helps me connect right away that he's a human being, as opposed to a banner like this, where it's like some tech sales robot, right? So if we go to his headline, major issues with this, all right? So this doesn't tell me who he is at all. It tells me that he's a BDR rework training, which by the way, all of us managers know what rework training is. And to be very blunt, it's not necessarily a good thing. When you have a ton of people go into a program, you cannot control the quality of the students. And so unfortunately, there's a lot of people in rework training that kind of ruin the reputation of other students in rework. So right away, I know that this guy has gone through this program and I'm making a biased judgment about the quality of his work because of the association. So I would remove any association. The other thing I don't like is that it says tech sales. Duh. Right? Like that doesn't do anything for me as a recruiter. It doesn't do what you think it does, right? The goal is to show, oh, I'm very focused on tech sales. Tech sales is an ocean of potential. What I want to see is what were you doing now or before, and what are you trying to get into? SDR, BDR, so on and so forth. And generating qualified leads to fuel revenue growth. Maybe if he's actually in sales, but if he's not in sales and he's saying that, then to me, it's just buzzwords and it actually hurts his credibility because he's saying that he's doing something he's not. Now, the only way I'm going to know that is by scrolling further down. So let's go into his about section. All right, again, The issue is it's way too wordy, right? So I like some of the stuff he has in here. We can hear more about his story, 9+ years in education, insurance, real estate, really good background, former Division I athlete, but I shouldn't have to read all of this stuff down here to get that. This should all be in his headline. What he could say instead is he could say insurance sales to SDR, just like we have credit sales to SDR over here with Ravleen. Then he could add a section that says former D1 athlete. Then he could say former educator. Now I'm way more interested in talking to this guy because he's got some cool experiences, educator, athlete, and he's got demonstrated sales experience. So I would shut all of this way down and go right into an about section similar to more what Ravleen has over here, where you can read it in one glance in a few seconds. And I think if he could just trim this all down, we would get the same result, but in a much more readable, digestible format. I love the motto down here. I love how he's talking about outside of work. That's all great, but it's just too much where I'm not actually going to read this. So if we flip over to another good example, we can see Jay Chavez here. Jay and I worked together to get him into tech sales. He was brand new to tech, no sales experience, had a little bit of real estate experience, and under 1 month, we had him 3 tech sales offers, and the offer he accepted actually more than doubled his income, and this is all in less than 30 days. So his profile specifically looks great because we've got a professional headshot here. This is more of the framing that I'd want to see for Cruz, right? Where we've got more of the head, the shoulders in the photo. I love the background, right? It's his city, it's engaging, it's vibrant, it connects to me as a human being. And then on his headline, I can see exactly who he is, right? I see we've got some real estate experience, which translates really well to SDR. I see that he's a youth pastor, which kind of gives me an insight into his other attributes and how else he might be. And then I see this fun tagline here, put me in, coach. This screams to me that he knows he's going to have to pick up that phone. He wants a coach. And so at a glance here, I can see this is the profile of someone who belongs in tech sales. And if we go down to his about section, we can see down here, it's not as wordy as Cruz's, but we still get some impactful points out of here. If someone is actually going to read this, they can see that he's mastered cold calling. We've got some, buzzwords in here like Power Dialer, Salesforce, HubSpot, 50%. Like these numbers, these metrics are really good in here. And then we've got his outside of sales. And we can see there's some youth pastor service here and some other stuff. So this profile looks really strong when we compare it to the others we looked at. So to break this down element by element, starting with the profile picture, you need a clean, polished headshot, no sunglasses, no group pictures, no weird angles, no crazy hair, just look like a professional. Good lighting, maybe some nature in the background, but do it in portrait mode on your iPhone so it's a nice blur effect, and just keep it clean and simple and think about what are you trying to convey, and that should be joy and confidence. If you need help getting a professional headshot, super easy. Just go outside with a friend, use portrait mode on your iPhone camera, and honestly, that should be good enough. If you want to use AI, then actually Gemini has a really cool Nano Banana module. All you need to do is use a prompt that looks something like this right here, and I'm going to use a very simple headshot that I took earlier and show you what this will produce. So here's the image that I'm uploading, and if we have Nano Banana run this, let's see what it comes back with. What it came back with is this image right here, which is not bad. Could it use some refinements? Yes. Does it make me look like I'm maybe 37 years old instead of 29? Yes, it does, but you get the gist. You can make some pretty clean headshots just by using Gemini. The formula for a good headline is simple. You need to start with what you were doing before SDR or what you're currently doing. Do a little arrow and type in specifically SDR or BDR, depending on what you want to do. The next little section of your headline should say something about who you are. Are you a lifelong learner? Are you coachable and curious? Are you whatever other professional attributions you would put for yourself belong there? Then your third bracket section should say something personal. One of my favorites to do is something like find me in the gym with the gym emoji. Find me playing piano with a piano emoji. Find me baking bread with a bread emoji. Do something that gives the recruiter some idea of who you are outside of work so that they can connect with you on that human to human level. And finally, in the about section, the goal is to keep it readable. These are not supposed to be paragraphs about who you are, what you've done. That's your resume's job. Your about section should be very simple, a very quick bio in the first sentence of your background. In the second paragraph, it should be why you're interested in tech sales, what you're excited about. Maybe you've got a few numbers in there like metrics and data that you have from former roles showing performance. And then the third line / paragraph should be about what you're into outside of work so that they get an idea of who you are as a holistic human being rather than just a candidate applying for a job. To show you what I mean, let's take a look at 2 before and after examples. The first one being Robert Hernandez. Robert was one of my clients. He was actually a former police officer who wanted to break into tech sales with no sales experience. And in just 21 days, we got him into a great tech company and he's actually crushing it over there now. So this is the LinkedIn profile he brought to me, and his headshot is actually pretty good. His banner was good, colorful, it's of a city. Everything looks good there, but his headline did not look very good. In fact, it didn't really tell me much about him. It tells me what he wants to do, which is get into tech, but it doesn't give me any idea of if he's actually a good fit for tech or not. So if we look at the revisions we made on his profile, we can see we followed that same pattern. Police officer to BDR, added in that he's bilingual, and we added in something about his personal life. What this tells me as a recruiter, when I look at this profile, he's kind of just meh, bleh, bland, doesn't tell me much. But here, I right away am thinking, my goodness, this guy is qualified. He's been in some high pressure situations. He's clearly a man of integrity, of values, if he's going to go serve his county in this capacity. And he's someone who has really cool backgrounds and experiences. And I'm sure he's got some stories. He's going to make a great BDR. And oh, by the way, now I know he's solely focused on getting into a BDR role, which is valuable for me to know. I also know he's bilingual, which tells me a little bit like, interesting. So he's clearly smart and maybe we could use him in a bilingual capacity. That's cool. Tells me more about him. And then finally, being associated with the gym, I'm going to assume this is a guy who's disciplined, he's athletic, he takes his health seriously, which are all things that fall in line with being an effective SDR or BDR. Now, if we look at his about section, we can see that it is short and legible, but it doesn't really connect that much. It's very professional. It tells me exactly who he is and what he wants to do, contribute to a winning sales team in SaaS. That's good. But what I had him add was this one simple line down here: outside of work, you can find me at the gym or a sporting event. I also love trying new restaurants with my wife. That brought all the humanity I need to see that this guy is a real human being who has interests and passions outside of just his career. One more example is Zach Smith. Zach Smith is actually a current client, and I'm sure that any day now we're going to have a new YouTube video going up for him landing his job. And what we can see here is the profile he came to me with. So he's got this green, bland background banner, great headshot, and also just a very generic headline. So if I was a recruiter looking at his profile, I would just think, no, he doesn't belong in tech sales. So we made some refinements, and what we did is we went ahead and put the colorful nature background on, which brings that human connection, left his headshot as is because he looks like a stud, but the headline was the big change. Instead of just having his generic information systems admin, that doesn't belong in tech sales. I don't see the correlation. Now I've got a very clean cut correlation to SDR, and it tells me more about his background. Husband and father, so I know this is a guy who's committed to working hard, presumably for his family. And then I get a nice fun fact in here: find me wake surfing. That's cool. It's unique. It's different. It's going to help me remember him amongst a pile of other candidates. Now, to close out and bring this all home, there are 3 other little things that you need to pay attention to with LinkedIn. One is that you need to make sure that your experience section perfectly aligns to your resume. Oftentimes what I'll see on LinkedIn is a candidate's profile that has all their experience listed out, but there's no bullet points underneath each experience, so I don't know what they actually did. But on your resume, you should have those bullet points demonstrating specifically what you've accomplished in those roles, what your KPIs were, your daily duties, and that will tell the complete story of your profile, so that if you do capture my interest long enough for me to be looking at your profile and scrolling down. If I do go to the experience section just to validate that you're the right fit before I set you up for an interview, I should be able to see very clearly all of your accomplishments underneath each role, and it should align perfectly with your resume. Another very important thing to talk through on LinkedIn is how to use the Open to Work banner. So as we can see here, we've got an example of someone who's got the Open to Work banner. This is nothing personal against Cord. I'm sure Cord's an awesome guy who just probably doesn't know better. And this is why I need to share this with you guys so that you don't accidentally set the wrong impression. The problem with having the Open to Work banner and wanting to get into tech sales is that Open to Work is a reactive thing. It puts you in the position of need. You need something from people. And if we were to put it in modern context of dating, for example, imagine you were trying to get into a relationship, trying to find your future spouse, and on your forehead, you had this thing that said, "I'm single, I'm open to dating." That would be a little strange because psychologically, even though it is a bias, and whether that's fair or unfair, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact is that it exists. When we look at people who are in need, we think of them as desperate. We think there's something wrong with this person, because if there wasn't something wrong with them, then they would already have the outcome they want. So this is brutal and savage to say, and a lot of HR people are probably gonna get pissed off and say, "Jack, that's so unfair, that's discriminatory." I don't care, because I want you to get hired and stop getting ghosted by recruiters. So I'm gonna just push through all the PC stupidity and tell you the truth. Don't wear Open to Work banners on your profile. You look desperate. You look like you're waiting for a handout. You look like you're waiting for someone to fix the problem you're in for you. What you need to do is take it off so that you look confident, like you're in demand, and like you don't have lack. We want to hire people who seem like they have it together, who seem like they're coming from a position of authority, projecting confidence, rather than projecting need and in desperation. So the right way to leverage the Open to Work banner on LinkedIn looks like this. What you'll want to do is go to your profile. You'll hit open to finding a new job. This will put the banner once you get all your filtering set up. But what you'll want to do to keep the actual banner off of your profile photo is hit recruiters only. This will show recruiters that you are in the market for hiring, which is good because you'll start to get these inbound messages inviting you to interviews. But if you hit all LinkedIn members, then you're going to end up looking like my brother Cord here. And when you're trying to get into sales, it's just not a good look. So make sure you set it to recruiters only, and that way you'll be good to go. You'll still get inbound messages from recruiters without sending an external message of desperation. The last thing you should know about LinkedIn and your profile is imperative. And if you're caught doing what I'm about to show you, it's an immediate red flag, and you might as well never apply to a tech sales job again. I'm going to keep this poster's post anonymous because I don't want them to get personally attacked, but I also need to expose this and show you guys why this is a terrible idea when you're trying to get into tech sales. So if we look at this post right here, this is someone who's posted about how hard their job search has been. And essentially they're complaining about the job search. Now look, I understand the job search is very frustrating, very discouraging, very disheartening. But if you're going to go into sales and there's any trace of a victim mindset in your tone, in your attitude, and what you talk about, you are immediately going to get denied for any role there is. And the reason is because there is zero tolerance for victim mindsets in sales. You don't have to be in sales if you want to go be treated fairly. Sales is a meritocracy. That's good and bad. The bad is that not everyone gets treated the same. You're going to have a different experience. You're going to have success and failure. You're going to get rejected by prospects all day long. It's not a fair system, but it's good because that means anyone can succeed. There's no barrier to entry. There's no cap on growth. And if you are someone who can be eternally optimistic and fight through rejection, you're going to make a lot of money in sales. If we look at this post about this person complaining about their job search, all they're doing is labeling themselves a victim. We see here a year of job searching. It's been disheartening. I had an experience where I didn't get picked, and complaining and whining. Why why am I doing this? And I'm trying to do everything I can. It's not working. It's incredibly tough. This is all just complaining and whining. This is not taking ownership over your situation. This is not the right mindset to come into a sales role. So you should be using LinkedIn to network. You should be posting about, hey, I made 32 calls today to managers. I got into 3 conversations. None of them worked out, but I'm excited to jump in and get after it again the next day. That post sends a very different message than what we're reading from this poster. This is all very whiny, negative, and it shows me right away that you're not going to succeed in sales, because if you're discouraged by the job search, you're going to be very discouraged when you get into the role and you have to make 60 dials a day and you only talk to 2 people that day. So all that to say, be wise about how you're using LinkedIn. It's not just your profile, but it's your interactions. If you're commenting on people's posts, if you're reposting stuff, or if you're posting yourself, be very mindful that recruiters look at all of that to make a decision on whether they think you're a good candidate or not. And that could be what makes or breaks you getting an interview and ultimately an offer. So all in all, if you're trying to build a LinkedIn profile that's going to have recruiters reaching out to you because it's so good, you need to have a profile picture that is clean and professional. You need to have a headline that has the right keywords and a clean about section that tells the right story of who you are and why you belong in tech. If you can implement all of this, you're going to have recruiters starting to reach out to you for interviews instead of you having to send hundreds and hundreds of applications into the void with no response. Now, if you need help breaking into tech sales and you want personal coaching and personal accountability with all of the systems and support I just laid out, click the link in the description below for a free training that shows you step by step how I help people break into tech sales in as little as 2 weeks with no tech experience or college degree. I'll see you on the next one.